Coming up, you may have thought we were done talking about Halloween Horror Nights, but we have to preview some of the food that you'll find at the event, and also the tribute store opened up, so I need to talk about that. So expect that and probably not a lot more on this week's episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. I'm your host, Craig Williams, and today I'm going to go through everything that I already mentioned in that cold open. I'm going to be talking about some of the food that's coming to Halloween Horror Nights. I am going to discuss the tribute store and my experience inside that. And that's probably pretty much it. And I'm going to be doing it all by myself because Rhino is not available to record and he didn't have a chance to go experience everything with me. So yeah, he's getting left out of this one, unfortunately. But before we do get started, I want to remind you that this is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. If you like our content and you want to support us, please consider booking your next vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. Remember, it costs you no extra money and you get the world-class level of support from a Dreams Unlimited Travel agent. So head over to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com today for a free, no-obligation quote. Now, I have one of two ways where I can really start this. It's between the tribute store or the food, and I feel like I'm going to start with the Halloween Horror Nights 30 tribute store and my overall thoughts on it, just because that's going to take far less time. And before I really get started on it, I do want to say that the store is absolutely gorgeous. If you are coming to Universal Studios Florida, or for Halloween Horror Nights or not for Halloween Horror Nights, doesn't really matter. If you're coming to Universal Studios Florida, you should absolutely go inside the tribute store and check it out. It is open every day and it is so beautiful on the inside. It is designed with such care and attention. Every single time they debut a new tribute store, like the Jurassic World one before it, the Mardi Gras store, any of them, it's just done so well. And whoever is on the design team working on building these stores, not only are they turning them around so quickly, but they're doing it without looking like they cut any corners at all. And I'm blown away. I'm blown away. We knew it wasn't going to be a replica of last year's store, even though, it's pretty much a lot of what was supposed to happen last year with Halloween Horror Nights is still carried over into this year. They could have went that way with this tribute store as well, too, but they didn't. They went with a complete different feel. Unfortunately, yeah, that means Frankenstein, he's out, and Beetlejuice. Yeah, Beetlejuice is out as well, too. But, Universal decided with this approach to pretty much focus a little bit more on the icons and not necessarily the Halloween Horror Nights icons, that is, and not necessarily go with the IPs for this tribute store. And because of that, I think it does make it a little bit. I'm looking for the best word to say it here because I don't want to seem insulting. It makes it less exciting, but at the same time too, it's not people going in just for photo ops, and that can get very overwhelming in there when people want to constantly take their photos with everything, and that's part of the fun of it. So I get it. It's a 50-50 balance. I wanted my photo in front of stuff in the Beetlejuice tribute store, and I wanted my photo in front of different things when they had the Christmas tribute store back during the holiday period. So I totally understand, and I know I'm going to get my photo next to some of the busts from the icons in this year's version of the tribute store. So I I totally get it, and I'm on board for it. And yeah, let's kind of go over it now, just very briefly. But the facade this year of the tribute store is like an old, dilapidated mansion, not a haunted mansion per se, but I'm sure there are spooky, crazy things going inside. But yeah, it's your basic old haunted house that is just sitting out front of the tribute store, and you get to enter inside, and you can tell that this house hasn't probably been inhabited in quite a long time. It's old time photos are just scattered all across the walls. It's dusty. The furniture all appears to be old in the kind of the foyer area. But then that's just the entrance point. You move into the actual first room of the tribute store. And this is, I don't know the old-fashioned term for it per se, but I guess this would be like the living room or the entertaining room of sorts. You know, there's a giant piano that is magically playing, and a fireplace, and it just seems like a room that you would want to entertain in. At least if I had an old house, this is where I would want to entertain. And I'm sure there's tons of Easter eggs buried all throughout this room. I wasn't with anyone who worked on the store, so I can't really point them out. And I didn't spend a lot of time inside the tribute store, like inspecting everything, looking for those little Easter eggs. So yeah, I'm sure they're in there, but I didn't necessarily notice them. But I paid a lot of attention to the things that they wanted you to see, because this was the first room. So their first chance to really showcase a lot of the past of Halloween Horror Nights in here. So there was, in every room, there was multiple little cabinets that housed some interesting... Well, only in the first two rooms, I should say, not in all of the rooms, but in the first two rooms, there was cabinets that had little props and models from past Halloween Horror Night events, which, yeah, that's a really nice touch. For me, most of the stuff I was looking at was before my time for Halloween Horror Nights, so it was a great way to look at all of those items, appreciate it, and get more of an understanding of what Halloween Horror Nights was like before I started attending. My favorite little prop booth that they had, not booth, but cabinet. They have a whole bunch of past Halloween Horror Night maps, and I, like many people, am a map hoarder, and I keep my maps and too many copies of them for way too long. I love a good map collection when it comes to theme park maps, and I loved being able to see all of those. And yeah, I wish I just had my pick of which ones that I wanted in there. But the next room that I'm going to discuss is the icons room, and this is where you see not only busts of the great Halloween Horror Nights icons, as well as portraits that are behind them that do have a bit of an animation to them if you're lucky enough to catch it in the right time. But this is where you can get your glimpse and photo inside of caretaker, director, the storyteller, Chance, and Jack the Clown. And yeah, it's a really well designed room. I love that they found that interesting way to put the characters in. And of course, there are still more of the little cabinets that are filled with props and memorabilia. Because yeah, you need to have more than just big photo op moments in these rooms. In my opinion, it's nice having those little Easter eggs, even though they're displayed meant to be looked at. But you know, they're still kind of Easter eggs for all intents and purposes, if that's the saying. Anyways, from there you move into what is a portrait hall, and this is where they put all the portraits. Couple weeks back, month ago, Universal offered, if you want to pay, I think it was $100-$200, then you could have your photo put inside the tribute store. And this is where all the photos are at. And you'll walk right in the door, and the first thing you see is Tim Tracker and Jen Tracker, and then there's lots of other people along the way, and some are in the Universal realm that you might recognize. Other are just random people that wanted to do this and be a part of the store. And I will say, uh, some of these were really terribly photoshopped. And this was like the one part of the room that kind of took me out of it. I don't know if they just didn't have enough time to turn around to do it, but a lot of these were like, it was old fashioned photos. Let's just replace the head. And it stuck out like a sore thumb. So I did not care for the portrait hallway at all. And you know what? That's fine, because really it's just taking you into the next room, which is the conservatory of sorts. And I guess I should have mentioned with the last room, with all the busts of the icons, this is kind of like a library room, I guess is the best way to describe the feel of it. I'm not sure if that's 100% what they were going for, but that's a decent way to describe it. And then you move on into the conservatory, which I am now looking up just to make sure that is exactly what it is, because I know there was a sign on the door as you went in, and I don't think I took a photo of it or video of it, but yes, the conservatory. So it is your greenhouse area. And so this room, there's plenty of awesome lighting, lots of greens, purples. It really pops in there. So I really, really enjoyed walking through this area. And from the conservatory, that leads you to the outside, where you do see the stable, and you'll have to go through the stable in order to leave and check out. And this is where you're going to find all your treats. But before you get there, very cool, there's a Shady Brook Asylum, like a carriage for anyone who doesn't know what Shady Brook Asylum is. It is the Halloween Horror Nights insane asylum. So there is a carriage parked outside of the stables. And as you walk through the stables, you have to fight the urge to get one of the amazing treats that are inside, some of which we'll go over when we move on to the food section. I was really tempted to walk away with the Bride of Frankenstein cake and a Frankenstein cake to match it, but I know one thing that I was staying away from, and that was the beating heart gummies. Still don't care for it, but I did like that they also added the electrified brains. I don't know if that was one of the options before and I just missed it last year, but very interesting gummies. I love that they keep going for it. And the cupcakes, everything in this section looked really good. I have to be in that right mood for sweets, and that wasn't my mood as I made my way through the tribute store. But then leaving the tribute store, as you're on your way out, you find that Shady Brook Asylum carriage had crashed in the town of Cary. And well, yeah, I'm guessing that the insane asylum, what are they? They're not patients. The people who are in there, I'm assuming they got out of the carriage, and that's a good place to set up a story to go from there. And what I didn't mention, obviously, as I rambled on and on about this, is all of the merchandise that has basically been available for the past couple weeks at Halloween Horror Nights is all found throughout the entire store. And I know we haven't really covered a lot of the merch for Halloween Horror Nights because this is an audio and video podcast. It's easy to talk about it on video. It's a lot harder for audio to keep it interesting, having to describe each article of clothing and such. But yeah, it's filled with Halloween Horror Nights different merchandise, plenty of t-shirts. They have they have a lot of their normals. They have shirts based on some of the houses. So they've been doing previews leading up to Halloween Horror Nights of some of the merchandise. And so like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre shirt, Haunting of Hill House shirts in there. They have a Frankenstein shirt that's in there. Multiple Frankenstein shirts, I should say, are in the tribute store. They have a lot of Jack and Icon merchandise as you're making your way throughout the entire tribute store as well, too. And then, of course, like the stuff they always have, a shirt that has all of the different houses for the year on there. It's completely loaded. And the one thing I hope is that they bring back some of the merchandise from last year that they made for the event that just ended up, they sold a lot of it. I think they sold out all of it ultimately, because like the last day of their Halloween event last year, things were on sale for, $3, $7. It was all really, really cheap, and I got in on that action too. But there were a couple shirts that I missed from last year that I really hope that they bring back, specifically the Universal Fright Night shirt with all the classic monsters on the front. I really wanted that. And yeah, it's not here yet, but we still have to get to the event on September 3rd, and then I'm sure more merchandise will come out. Hopefully. If not, they're going very light on the merch this year, and I don't expect that because they usually go pretty all in on merchandise. It's a big part of Halloween Horror Nights, so I look forward to seeing what else they come out with, and hopefully it's a lot. But if they don't have a ton of food, if that ruined my segue there. If they don't have a ton of merchandise, that's okay, because there is plenty of food that will be found throughout Halloween Horror Nights. And Universal kind of released a peek at some of the different food that will be available at the event that is inspired by different houses at the event. And this list is just very limited. I'm going to go over some of the other booths that are available after I go through this, but I am going to mention that the ones that they actually released and provided photos with. And so there is going to be a booth that is taking its inspiration from The Haunting of Hill House, specifically the infamous Red Room, where there's a tea party held in there that I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but because of this, there's going to be menu items like stuffed brisket grilled cheese, jalapeno bacon grilled cheese, tempeh, Reuben, and sauerkraut, and the poison tea party, which I think all of those sound good. And the poison tea party, I'll say, it's an iced tea and lemonade-based rum punch with mountain huckleberry and allspice notes. Oh my goodness. And then, of course, there's dishes inspired by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Leatherface, with items like roasted lamb spit and severed ribs. Then there's also going to be food inspired by the Bride of Frankenstein, including the Bride of Frankenstein swirl ice cream. That's black and white ice cream served inside a black waffle cone. Then there's the Flammkuchen, and also the Reibekuchen. So yes, those are German items. I'm excited about that. That makes sense, having Frankenstein's lore be in Germanic, German towns, that would absolutely go along with it. There's going to be food inspired by Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin, one of the original houses, including the Field of Screams Goiza. I apologize. I should have looked that one up first. Pumpkin Guts and Dulce Pumpkin Spice Churro. And finally, there's also going to be food inspired by Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, including bourbon candied pork belly, Monte Cristo waffle stick, and beer floats, which I love these. Beer floats complete with vanilla soft serve ice cream, whipped cream, topped with either a dried orange peel or large pieces of peanut brittle. Sounds very good. Voodoo Donut is also getting in on the action for food this year, as they always do. And there's going to be at least 2 different donuts. There's going to be one that is, I believe, Dracula's Kiss, and that looks like a big jelly donut. And then there's also going to be a Bride of Frankenstein one that, of course, is a black and white donut. And I didn't see the tasting notes on this, if they released any, but yeah, a black and white donut. That's perfectly in theme. Other snacks and treats that you'll find throughout the event include some of the ones in the tribute store, like Jack the Clown and Chance Mason jar treats, graveyard cupcakes, pumpkin cocoa bombs, and a whole lot more. And guests at Universal who love Coke Freestyle will find new exclusive Fanta Flavorween mixes like Fanta Grape Goblin, Fanta Orange Jack-O-Lantern, and Fanta Strawberry Scary Skull. That is a mouthful. There are a lot of things to say with those Fanta flavors, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time saying those things about them. I'm just going to let it go. But what I love most about the booths this year is, if you've been following on social media, you've probably seen a lot of people posting about the booths so far, because they are better than they've ever been before, because a lot of these booths are inspired by the houses. So not only are you getting these dishes that are inspired by the houses, then you're also getting these booths set up with food that also look like the exteriors, not necessarily the exteriors of the houses, but the exterior of the booths have nods to the different houses. And I'm going to kind of go over some of the different booths that they have all around the park. And so just right outside of Rip Ride Rocket, you'll find the Sweet Shop. And here you'll find bourbon candied pork belly, Monte Cristo waffle stick, shattered glass candied apple, Ace Space beer float, and then lots of beer, soda, and water. So this is our Revenge of the Tooth Fairy inspired booth that I already mentioned. And also in the kind of the courtyard area in New York, right across from Jimmy Fallon, right in the Scare Zone area. Here you're going to find some more HHN icon style items. Specifically, I say that because this is where you'll find the Jack Donut slider, carnivore smoked wings, bag of donuts, and a wicked old-fashioned whiskey and Coke, plus beer, water. I'm going to not mention the beer and water because you know those are all coming at this point. Also, in terms of food here, you have the No Chance in Hell PB&J, a deep-fried peanut butter and grape jelly Uncrustable sandwich. You have Dr. Panetti's confetti battered Oreos, tiny Twinkies, and that is it. And that all sounds very, very good. And in terms of also, you'll see that the booths that are inspired by the houses, but then there's also these castle-like looking booths as well too. And I'm assuming that most of these are where they're going to have beer and mixed drinks at, and we'll just have to wait to see if that's the case. And I don't know the menus for that yet, so another thing we'll just have to wait and see. Then also in that New York area, in the same area as where I believe the Texas Chainsaw style barbecue place will be, because there's a stand that says right on it, "We Slaughter Barbecue." And here's where we find, yes, this would be correct, because here's where you find Coca-Cola barbecue. That's either the roasted lamb spit, severed ribs, grandma's skeleton tray. We have the Leatherface cherry pie and the Texas Heat margarita. That all sounds very delicious. There's 2 food trucks that will be around. I believe the one food truck is just... They're both in the San Francisco area, so I don't know why I'm stumbling so much on it. The one is closer to Beat Builders and Fast and Furious Supercharged, and the other is at the exit of Fast and Furious Supercharged. And the one that is right across from the attraction entrance, this one features arepas, and then those flavors are carnitas, picadillo, and queso blanco. And at the other booth, this is where they have chicken tender sandwiches. There's one that's buffalo hot, a banh mi, and a barbecue. And those ones, the food trucks, are actually already open as of now. If you're listening to this or watching right after its release, it's already available, so you could technically start getting them right away. But for everyone else, look forward to it once Halloween Horror Nights starts. Then on the bridge that kind of takes you from Diagon Alley area over to like Springfield, USA, you'll find your next booth. And this one is the one that's inspired by Wicked Growth and has the Field of Screams Goiza. Oh man, I could have stopped and even looked it up and I didn't. Pumpkin Guts and Pumpkin Dulce de Leche Churro and Bog Slime at this one. That's the specialty drink there. And then going over to the Kid Zone area, that's where you'll find the Beetlejuice inspired one, but that's where they have Twisted Taters, because can't be HHM without Twisted Taters. Twisted Taters, of course, are potatoes that are basically spread out across a stick in a spiral shape, and then they have different flavors to them, including seasoned salt, garlic parmesan, sour cream and chives, and a ghost pepper one. Ooh, spicy. Then there's the Blood and Guts Tater, which is a twisted tater smothered in chili and roasted red pepper queso. Twisted Frankencoil, which is a hot dog and a twisted tater combined, because that's always crazy. And then there's Twisted Blood and Guts, which is a twisted Frankencoil smothered with the chili and roasted red pepper queso, the ultimate form of that. And Gold Juice. That's what you'll have there as your specialty drink. Right across from the Beetlejuice-inspired one is the Haunting of Hill House one, the booth for that. And that didn't have a menu up when I was at Universal on Thursday. I believe it's been put up today, but Universal also released the list of everything there. So yeah, I just don't have a visual of it if you were watching the show, not listening. But yeah, that's a look at some of the food. I'm very excited for the food this year. I think it all sounds good. I just need to know what I'm going to be drinking with everything that I'm eating this year, because beer to me is an important part of the event. It used to be mixed drinks back in the day when you would buy the cup and they would give you 2 shots instead of a single shot in the souvenir cups, and that would help ease the nerves of Halloween Horror Nights. And now for me, it's just beer, and I want a good pumpkin beer. They've had Shipyard Pumpkinhead beer in the past, and I do like it. It's a nice low percentage pumpkin beer that goes down very easy on a hot night. But you know what? I'd even be willing to see if they mix things up a little bit and try something new. But I cannot wait. We are a week away from the start of Halloween Horror Nights, so our next week's show isn't actually going to be the show that focuses on Halloween Horror Nights. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to do a question and answer show for next week. So please start leaving your questions if you have any in the YouTube comments, or you can always email me, Craig@DisneyInfo. I will find your questions if you have them, but make sure you get them to me. So next week's episode is most likely going to be that question and answer episode. And then the week after that, we will have our Halloween Horror Nights 30 coverage for you. But keep an eye on our social medias, and also keep an eye on YouTube during that week, because we will have walkthroughs of the houses as long as Universal lets us film them. At the media event, we will have walkthroughs of the houses. If you want to spoil it for yourself, if you're not going to the event this year, you want to see it, we'll have it on there. And yeah, can't wait. And I hope everyone appreciates everything that we try to put out for it. Maybe not appreciates is the word I'm looking for, but I hope everyone enjoys what we get out from the event. But that's going to do it for me today. I have to take a break. Can't keep talking this long without stopping. But I do appreciate everyone out there. And that's why I wanted to give you an episode, even if I had to do it by myself. And if you enjoyed this episode, you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to UO Fan so you get all those HHN videos next week. And also, please leave comments, questions, video suggestions in the comment section, including those question and answer questions. Or again, email me, Craig@DisneyInfo.com. If you're listening, please make sure you are subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts. And if it's through Apple Podcasts, you're leaving 5-star ratings and reviews if you're enjoying the show. And one more time, if you want to support us more, please consider booking your next vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. Get a free no obligation quote at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. But that's it for me this week. I hope everyone has a great week. I hope anyone who's going to Halloween Horror Nights is scared out of their minds, because I know Rhino will be as well. And we will see you again real soon with another episode of the DIS Unplugged Universal Edition. But until then, remember, we still haven't changed the name.